Rise and shine, the day's begun. Feel the glow of the morning sun. At Bodhisuddha our hearts align. Sacred service in bed is divine. Oh, Sunday morning, let's break the gray. Shake the dust and light the way. Clear the energy, make it bright. Start the week off, oh so
right. Hello, VIPs. It's time again for Sunday service. I am not prepared, so I'm gonna do a combo of Sunday service and notes from the journey, because I do have some audio recordings I had been doing for notes from the journey, but I haven't done it yet, so I'll just do it here. But I do want to come on because every week I want to try to tell you about like what's coming this week energetically, and try to prepare you for it, and give those of you that watch at least a moment of stillness and getting centered. If you don't do it any other time, I want you to be able to do it on Sundays, so we're gonna do that. I don't know how this is gonna go, we'll see. I don't have much prepared, so we're gonna take a second. I'm gonna hit the singing bowl, shake up the energy. I'll try to do it quietly so it doesn't scare you, but still shake things up, so give me 1 minute here. Okay, so let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. We're going to do a little box breathing 3 times. In through the nose, hold it, and out through the mouth, and hold. Again, in through the nose, hold it, out through the mouth, and hold it. Last time. In through the nose, deep, 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 deep. Hold it, let all the toxic stuff gather, and blow it out through the mouth. All right. Okay. Now, imagine the soft glowing light coming down from the heavens. See it blowing through the clouds, all the way down through the sky, down to your neighborhood, down to your house or wherever you are, right to the top of your head. And it goes in the top of your head, and it's going down your head, down your face, relaxing your face and your jaw, going down the back of your head, on the sides of your head, relaxing your ears, down your throat, the sides of your neck and the back of your neck, down your chest, your shoulders, your upper back, down your arms, to your hands and fingers, and down your back and your stomach, and your sides, down your hips and your butt, and your thighs, inner and outer thighs, and down your lower legs, and your feet and your toes. If you want to squirm a bit, wiggle your fingers and toes, whatever, shake that energy out, get it out. And then that same light goes all around your body. It takes all the toxic energy and sends it down to the earth for us. Thank you. Take another deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Take a few seconds, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay. Take a minute. If you want to keep your eyes closed, that's okay, because we're going to do some more stuff. If you want to open your eyes, that's all right. Either way, but they want me to talk about Mercury in retrograde, and that this energy is coming in to help you listen before speaking. They say especially about your own story. So if you're going to journal, and again, I'll put this in the description, they say to ask yourself, what phrase or belief do you keep repeating about yourself? So for example, I used to walk around all the time just casually saying, I'm so dumb, I'm so dumb, I'm so dumb. And I still do it sometimes. And I have to stop saying that, because when I'm saying it, I don't believe it, but I'm making myself believe it because I say it all the time. That's just an example. Whatever is for you, but all right, so they want you to figure that out. What phrase or belief do you keep repeating about yourself? Now, say silently or out loud, I release what no longer serves me. I reclaim my truth. And when you get time, if you're going to journal, they want you to write out what it is that you keep saying about yourself that you need to change and rewrite it. So, for example, if I'm saying I'm so dumb all the time, I'm going to write out that I say that. I'm not going to write that, but I'm going to say that I tell myself I'm dumb. I casually tell myself I'm dumb, and I have to rewrite that. I'm actually very intelligent, and I've been tested, so it doesn't make any sense that I say that about myself. Do you know what I mean? And again, I'll have this in the description for people who are going to do it. Okay, so the next thing, they want you to do this so that you can learn to do it on a daily basis when you need to find calm in the chaos. So if you haven't already had your eyes closed, let's close your eyes. Inhale for 4. Hold it for 4. Exhale for 4. And again, inhale to 4. Hold for 4. And exhale to 4. Last time. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 4. Now, visualize roots from your tailbone growing into the stable earth, grounding you. Then envision a warm golden light descending over your head, moving through each chakra and going all around your body. It's dissolving all the tension, the fear, and the self-doubt. And take a deep breath in through the nose. Hold it. And out of your mouth. That's it. Just that little bit when you're in chaos. They want you to learn. And if that doesn't work for you, create your own. But they just wanted you to see that you can just take a second anytime things feel chaotic and ground yourself. Okay, so if your eyes were closed, you can open them now. Okay. So they say that this week's energies are coming in to help you find and take balanced action and self-awareness. So they want you to set your intentions for the week. Again, I'll put this in the description. And there's 3 things. So number 1, choose one structure to refine, like a morning routine, a boundary, a workspace, just one thing. The second thing is identify one belief or story that you need to reframe. And they say that as much as I complain about Mercury being in retrograde, they said that its energy will help you do this. So like we were talking about, one belief or story you tell yourself that you need to reframe. And the example I said, like when I tell myself I'm so dumb, whatever it is for you, Okay? And the third thing, practice one pause, like we just did, where you close your eyes, envision yourself being grounded to the earth. Practice doing one pause before a speech, before you react to something that irritated you, before you overreact when you're in chaos, whatever. Practice a pause that works for you to kind of center yourself before you like flip out, before you, you know what I mean, feel irritated, just pause. Okay? And then they want us to say this, so repeat after me. I stand grounded in my truth. I release what I don't need. I meet the week ahead with clarity and grace. So like I said, I'll add some stuff here, maybe from notes from the journey, and I'll do some messages here in a minute. But as for Sunday service, that's it. I feel like we're being prepared for something because they make me feel different this week. Well, first of all, I always think everything lines up the way it's supposed to, and I feel like Spirit made it so I didn't have time to prepare for Sunday service this week, because I literally just channeled all this stuff not 2 minutes before I started recording. And the way they're like telling me to help you practice staying calm, tell you that you need to reframe stories you're telling yourself about yourself. Like, I feel like they're prepping us for something. So just be prepared. I don't know what's coming this week, but it feels like we might be in a little bit of chaos. So please, I'll put it all in the description, but please do what they're saying, because I definitely feel like they're preparing us. And again, we are in Mercury retrograde, which in of itself is hard. So please heed the advice. All right, make sure you ground yourself this week. Make sure you pause. Keep your mind open. Stay anchored. And no matter what the cosmos deliver, just know that it's intentional. It's happening for us, not to us. All right? So until next week, send you guys positive energy. Okay, so this is a question I got from someone I'm working with, excuse me, in the coaching sector. We talked about this a little bit, but she wanted me to get into more of sort of the phases of being an empath, awakening to the fact that you are an empath, that kind of thing. Alright, so what I noticed first is that most of the people I meet that are empaths, it begins with some sort of early childhood trauma. Usually it comes from being a child, a very young child, maybe even from birth, being in unstable situations. And I'm not talking about anybody's parents. Sometimes it is a parent's, but it doesn't always have to be. But some kind of environment that was unstable. And it teaches you from a very young age to be in tune with the slightest energy shift, because something happened. Let's just, for example, say, I'll use me. I grew up in a narcissistic household. Two of them, actually. My mother was a narcissist. My father was a narcissist. They divorced, and I spent the school year with my mother and summers with my father. And they were both very volatile environments. And so basically every day of my life since I can remember, I woke up not knowing what that day was going to be like, in terms of, is mom going to freak out today? Is dad going to freak out today? Are they in a good mood? Blah, blah, blah. And it taught me at a very young age, like as far back as I can remember, the moment I woke up, I'd sit for a minute and just try to feel or listen. Is anybody yelling? Is anybody stomping around? Is anybody slamming things? And that's kind of how I knew what my day would look like. So it usually starts with something like that, maybe not exactly, but something goes on in your life where you have trained yourself to tune in to see what the day is going to be like, what the environment's going to be like, and it usually starts like that. The other thing I want to say is there are a lot of empaths, but they're also still rare, if that makes sense, because we're in this kind of spiritual warfare now. So intentionally, a lot of empaths have been placed here. But in comparison to society as a whole, it's rare. But also, I believe there are empaths who never realize they're empaths. They don't ever do the work. They don't ever do the internal work to kind of figure out what's happening. There's a lot of people who don't make it to what I call the third stage of it, where you learn to work with it and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so when you're a child, you develop this gift, I guess, of tuning into energy. Again, it usually starts because it's self-protection. I've experienced this, like, for example, again, my mother's outburst or something, and so now I'm scared of that. And so I tune in to see, like, is she in a good mood? Is she not? Whatever. So it usually starts by just the simple fact that you're a sensitive child, and that you kind of love without boundaries. And so you love all these people and they hurt you. It begins again with kind of not having boundaries and not having limits. And so people cross them, and you don't want to experience that again. So you're constantly checking the energy. What's the energy shift like? Is everybody okay? Is everybody happy? You probably become a people pleaser because, again, you don't want whatever trauma happened. So I tune in, and as a child, or even today, I tune in and how is everything? Is everybody happy? Somebody's not happy. Let me make them happy or avoid them. But if I have to come in contact with them, I want to do something to make them happy. I'll do anything you want. I'll be the good girl and blah, blah, blah. And that's usually where it starts. So as a child, you're very sensitive, but you're also quite bold and brave. But people will, of course, try to stomp that out of you. And so this all usually starts with, like I said, a trauma or a fear of abandonment, a fear that, I don't know, sometimes you try to make yourself small as well, because it's like, well, if I'm not seen, they won't lash out at me, or, so again, this first stage is usually where you become the people pleaser, and in some instances, like my own, sort of a martyr, you become the martyr. I sacrifice all my own stuff just so everybody else will be happy, and like, now do you love me? Now do you love me? Maybe now you won't lash out at me. Maybe, it's really a heavy case of codependency. And again, at this stage, you don't even know you're an empath, and usually as a child, you don't even know what an empath is. Also in this stage, and through most of the stages, you have been taking on the feelings of other people like they're your own. And this is a very hard thing to explain to people who are just learning about being an empath. You always, seemingly there's nothing wrong with you. You're not in a bad mood. You're not having a problem. And then suddenly you're depressed. And you go through and I have talked about this, where I went through that whole stage of, I constantly felt depressed. I felt these rages, and I didn't understand they weren't my feelings. I didn't understand I was taking on everyone else's feelings. And so that's, like I said, I went to the doctors and got on prescriptions. I could not figure out how to stop this sadness and these rages, but they weren't mine. But no one had taught me that. No one had taught me. I had to find the difference between my feelings and the feelings I was taking on from other people. And what it does, another thing that happens is you do take on other people's problems. So it's like you don't even deal with your own problems because you're so busy trying to help everybody with their problems. You literally take them on as your own. Like, if somebody had a problem and I hadn't figured out a way to help them solve it, I took that. Like, I was never just like, oh, sorry, I can't help you. It was like, oh God, how am I going to help? And I obsess over how to help these people. Because I think, again, on some level, I did understand, not consciously, but I did understand that, like, I'm feeling their feelings. And so the only way to stop me feeling that is to help them feel better. And again, it's not something you consciously do. It's very subconscious. And this can go on for quite a while. And some people, well into adulthood, where you keep doing this. You're the people pleaser. You want to make everybody happy. You want to fix everybody's problems. And you don't really understand why you're doing that. You're oblivious to this. And again, one of the causes is being petrified as a child, being made to feel responsible for, your parents' well-being and your siblings and grandparents and cousins or whoever you grew up around. And you're made to feel responsible for everyone's emotional well-being. I think that's sort of placed on you. You're usually sort of the black sheep. Every problem is your fault somehow. And you believe that and you take that on. It's just naturally embedded in you to be this caretaker, to put other people's priorities and other people's needs ahead of your own. And literally, I can only speak for my family, that was expected of me. There was never a question of like, well, why are you helping them when you got your own problems? It was always like, you need to help them. And yet no one ever took that tone for me. No one ever told a sibling, you have to help her. It was just expected of me. It was my role, and I didn't question it because they assign you that role at birth. And so you always put other people's priorities ahead of your own. You always come last. And so if and when you do get to the stage where you recognize that and start taking care of your own issues, that becomes a problem because you now are a teenager or an adult and you have no idea how to take care of your own needs because you haven't done it up to that point. So that becomes hard. And that's the second stage, where it becomes like I couldn't even, and you know who you are, I've spoke to you about this. I didn't know how to order my own food. I didn't even know what I liked because I never got to make those choices. And it literally was difficult. I can remember DoorDash and whatever, you'd have to call. Like if I wanted to order pizza was my thing. I'd have to make that call, and it would take me an hour or so to get the nerve up to make that call. I couldn't do it because I don't know, like what if I made the wrong choice? What if I said something wrong? Like I couldn't make the call to order pizza. I look back, that's so strange. And I remember when like Grubhub came around, I was so happy I didn't have to talk to anyone. I could do it online, but even that, like choosing what I wanted took forever because I was so petrified of making the wrong choice. Okay, so anyway, this is the first stage, right? This is where most empaths start. You're young and your heart is wide open. You love deeply, you give generously, and you try to make everyone around you happy. Sounds beautiful, right? Except that you also struggle with boundaries. You take on everyone's emotions like they're your own. You constantly feel responsible for other people's pain. You fear being rejected or abandoned, even if you don't realize it yet. As children, we don't understand that's what we're actually feeling, a fear of rejection. You don't even know you're an empath. You just know you're exhausted and overwhelmed, and somehow you're always entangled in other people's messes. You might have been the quote-unquote parent in your family growing up, or you had to parent yourself. You learned early that love equals sacrifice, and that sets you up to attract narcissists. Yep. This is usually the phase where empaths fall into deep, painful relationships where they give everything and get crumbs back. So you generally stay in this stage throughout your childhood, your teens, your 20s. Some people stay in it in their 30s and 40s, and some people never get out of it. But if you're here, you're probably not in that anymore. So then you go to the second stage, which is the breakdown, aka the dark night of the soul. Eventually something cracks. You go through a heartbreak, a betrayal, or you just get burnt out from all the heartbreak and betrayal, you hit a wall. And this time you don't bounce back. Things get very dark. It's not your average sad phase. It's soul deep. It's like everything you thought you knew about yourself, about other people, about the world is just being ripped apart. And you start questioning, like, why do I keep ending up in toxic relationships? Why do I feel invisible or used or unappreciated? Who am I if I'm not the person constantly fixing and helping? This is the shadow work phase, where a lot of people that I work with are. You start digging through old wounds and childhood conditioning, start looking at painful patterns you keep repeating. It's super heavy and it's long. And I've talked about this. This is when I went on the medication dance because I did not know what this was. It can last for years. And from the outside, you might look like you're functioning, you're still going about life, but inside you're unraveling and it feels so dark and heavy and it feels like you'll never get out. Now here's the thing. It's actually a good thing, because this is where you finally realize you've been abandoning yourself all along. And you realize being an empath isn't the problem. And this is probably where you find out that you are an empath. But you also realize not having boundaries is the problem. Okay, then hopefully you'll get to the final phase, the empowered empath. Hopefully, eventually, something clicks and you stop trying to save everyone. You stop needing people to like you. This is important. You start to trust your own intuition. And you realize you have to have boundaries, that boundaries are not walls, it's about self-respect and protecting yourself. You realize you can love people and still say no. You realize that other people don't betray you. You betray yourself by not protecting yourself and honoring your truth. This is where your empathy becomes a gift again, not a burden. But here's the thing. Just because you've reached this empowered state doesn't mean you're done. If you haven't fully healed your core wounds, you might slip back into phase 2, and maybe even phase 1. And that's okay. Each time you come back stronger and clearer. So what comes next? The void. It's just kind of another phase. Most people never talk about this. Once you've been in empowerment long enough, you start to feel like something else is pulling at you. Something else is calling. Like there's another level, but it's not about healing anymore. You don't need to fix yourself. You're not in pain. You're not chasing purpose. You're just being. You're just in the flow. There's a quietness, a stillness. Almost like you're living between two worlds. This phase isn't about doing more. It's about being in full alignment with your soul. You're not trying to manifest a dream life. You are the frequency that attracts what's meant for you. This is where you've done the inner work. You've rewired your energy, and now you're a walking activation for others. Your presence alone shifts people. And this is rare. Some people live and die in phase 1. Others spend decades in phase 2. A few find some peace in phase 3 and just kind of stay there. But those who come into this stage, they're not just empaths anymore. They become energetic leaders. And if you're hearing the call toward that next level, trust it. You're not crazy. You're evolving. Okay, so something else I was asked to discuss. Okay, so first of all, if you're listening to these, you've probably been doing some self-reflection at the very least, right? Chances are you're not new to the whole self-awareness thing. You're probably trying to do your inner work, peeling back the layers, maybe journaling at midnight, crying through the breakthroughs, or starting to see people and patterns more clearly. And at some point, you realize that the clearer you become within yourself, the clearer everything around you gets too. It's kind of wild. Things that used to confuse you start to feel obvious. So for example, like, I used to be very confused. Like I said, I grew up in a narcissistic family, and so I went and dated and married narcissistic people. And their gaslighting and manipulation used to be very confusing, where now it's like, I'm like blinking at people like, do you really hear what you're saying? Or before I'd fall for it, I'd be very, they try to manipulate you and keep you confused, and I'd be very confused. And now it's like I see right through it, and it's almost laughable, the things people will try to say. So things like that, like the things that kept you stuck, now you look right through it. And it's kind of wild to look back and like, wow, I can't believe I ever fell for that, because it's so obvious now. You pick up on energy, you pick up and see through people's motives, you pick up on what's unsaid, and the reason is you stop lying to yourself. Once you get to this place, you can look back and see how people's manipulations and gaslighting were always kind of obvious, but I didn't want to believe it because I kept lying to myself. Like, this is my mother wouldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? Or this is my spouse wouldn't do that. They're supposed to be on my team, It's a little frustrating to think back to that. But I had to stop lying to myself. And I can say that now. I can look back now and say, this was always obvious. I just didn't want it to be true. So I'm going to give you a couple of things here that have helped me and some of the people I work with. It helps you kind of tap into this kind of clarity. So whether you're trying to understand a relationship or make a big decision or just stop getting pulled into other people's chaos, this is for you, okay? And I'll write this out in the description. So the first thing is, like I said, start with self-honesty. Sounds pretty basic, but most people skip this. Like I said, I didn't even notice I was lying to myself, but I was totally lying to myself. I can see it. I can see it now. If you're not honest with yourself, everything else gets distorted. So you have to start here. Self-honesty isn't about like judging yourself or overthinking. It's about asking real questions like, am I ignoring red flags because I want this to work? Which is exactly what I was doing in my family relationships, my romantic relationships. I would ignore or explain away red flags because I didn't want it to be true. So ask yourself that. Ask yourself, am I pretending something feels okay when it really doesn't? I did that too. Ask yourself, do I keep giving someone the benefit of the doubt just because I don't want to lose them? And this is key. This is usually the truth. When you get very, very honest with yourself. Obviously, I didn't want to lose my family, so I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I didn't want to lose my spouses, so I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. I kept focusing on what I wanted to be true rather than what was actually happening. Do you know what I mean? So when you stop sugarcoating your feelings or kind of bypassing your gut, your intuition, the whole lens changes. You stop seeing people through what they call the rose-colored glasses. You stop seeing people through your wounds, and you start seeing them as they really are. And this is difficult. But once you can get there, like I said, it becomes almost laughable. Like, do you really think you could pull this on me? Did I really fall for this stuff? All right, so the first thing, like I said, you got to be honest with yourself. And the second thing is to observe. Do not attach. It's easy to get caught up in what we want someone to be, what we want to be true, especially if we love them. But that attachment kind of blinds us And sometimes we fall in love with someone's potential, not who they really are, not their patterns. And patterns tell the truth. So watch what people consistently do. Not what they promise, not what they say, not what they tell you they're working on. What they do when no one's watching, when things get hard, or when they think you're not going anywhere. And if that doesn't line up with your values, it's not your job to fix it. It's your job to decide if that energy belongs in your life. And I did this a lot. It's like most of the relationships I was in, I wasn't in it because of who they were. I was in it because I could see they had so much potential. He could be a really great guy if this, and this. He's really sweet underneath if this, and that. You know, I did that all the time. And what I needed to do was, even if I could see that potential, I can't make them get there. So, if they're not there now, do I want to be with that? Do I want to be around whatever the behavior is? Usually the answer is no. But we usually hang on because we're like, yeah, but if he could just da-da-da, or if she could just da-da-da, but okay, but they're not. So do you want to be stuck in this situation with who they are not now, not who you want them to be or who you know they could be? And this is a hard lesson, but we all have to learn it, or we keep repeating the same stuff. Empaths are notorious for being stuck in cycles with narcissists because we do this, because we're so kind, and because we can see the potential in people and we can heal them, and we're notorious for it. I mean, Google it. You'll see a million listings about it. Okay, so the third thing. Learn to have boundaries. This is so, if you do nothing else, have boundaries. Just have some boundaries. Boundaries are not mean. They're good for you. They're good for the other person. It's how you teach the world how to treat you. You teach the world how to treat you. I always tell somebody when they're starting to date somebody, like, be very sure about where your boundaries are, because you are laying the foundation for how they're going to treat you for the rest of your relationship. If you let people get away with things, they're always going to try to get away with things. If someone walks away when you set a boundary, they were never safe to begin with. Anyone who does not respect or understand your boundaries is not someone who's good for you. Would you cross another person's boundaries? If you knew someone had a boundary, would you go ahead and cross it? Then why is it okay for someone to do that to you? And if you're terrified to speak your truth because you think they'll leave, then that's the part of you that still believes you have to shrink to be loved. You should never fear losing someone who cares about you just for speaking up for yourself. And if somebody leaves because you're speaking up for yourself, they need to go. They need to go. You need to let them go. How could anybody fault you for speaking up for yourself? Okay? And if you're there, if you're still that person shrinking back because you don't want to upset the status quo, or you don't want anybody to leave you, then that's the part that deserves healing, not more compromise. You can still be kind, you can still love, but real love includes self-respect. And if anybody faults you for having self-respect, they're garbage. They gotta go. Sorry. Sorry, there's a plane coming. Hold on. Another thing is learning discernment. Discernment, not judgment. Discernment is just seeing things clearly without making yourself or anyone else wrong. And that's important, because if I say this person is still in the stages of wanting to manipulate everybody, blah, 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 I'm not judging them for it, because at some point we're all there. Like, the world teaches us we have to manipulate, we have to act a certain way to get a certain thing, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not judging them. I'm just saying that's where they are, and I'm not there anymore. Discernment is seeing it clearly and not judging them or making them wrong. They're not wrong, they just haven't learned what you learned. That's okay, but I don't want nothing to do with it. Judgment makes things heavy. It adds shame and blame, right? But discernment is just matter-of-factly, this is what it is. It's neutral. It's, this isn't right for me now. instead of like, you're bad, or I'm bad for wanting this, or they're terrible for doing that. And the knowing the difference between the two changes everything. Why are there so many planes all of a sudden? Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was protecting yourself from what I call energy hooks. Energy hooks aren't always obvious. It could be like if you have a friend who drains you but makes you feel guilty if you don't allow them to drain you. So it's like if you have a friend that's always in a heavy dark energy and always in the middle of some drama and wants to talk about the same guy who cheated on her for the 17th time, you know, those people, they just drain you, but they make you feel guilty if you don't allow them to keep draining you. It could be a family pattern that keeps you stuck in old roles, and we've talked about this a lot. Most empaths are assigned like the black sheep role, the scapegoat role. I'm trying to think of another example. In relationships too, if you're in a relationship with someone that drains your energy, but they make you feel like this is your role, you're my person, you should put up with all my crap, you should put up with me complaining but never doing anything to change it. Like, those are energy hooks, and the stronger your sort of inner clarity gets, the less susceptible you are to those hooks. You start to feel, again, what's true for you. Even when the world is loud, you can hear what's good for you. Okay. Literally another plane. This is crazy. Not today, Satan. Something and someone is always trying to shut me up. Okay, so the next thing. You have to understand that what you allow reflects what you believe you deserve. So if you're constantly justifying other people's behavior, telling yourself they didn't mean it, they're just stressed, I should be more understanding. If you're telling yourself that, pause. Ask yourself, if someone treated your best friend this way, what would you say? Sometimes we put up with things, not because we're weak, but because we learned early on that our needs weren't important. And that's a lie. Your needs matter. You matter. This is a constant problem with empaths. We were taught this very early on. I had to come in. I don't know why all of a sudden all these planes are flying by. I'm not near the airport or anything. Okay, so let me say that clarity does not mean perfection. These are things I have learned over time. I've lived out a long time. But just because I've learned them doesn't mean I've perfected them. Do you know what I mean? You're still going to have moments of confusion and hurt and doubt. That's human. You are an empath, you are an HSP, light worker, whatever, but you're also here as a human. You're going to experience human things. The goal isn't to become some all-knowing, unbothered oracle. The goal is to build trust with yourself, so even when something throws you off, you know how to come back to your truth. That's where the freedom is. You don't need to call people out to honor your truth. You don't need to fix everyone or prove your value. You just need to get clear on what's a yes, what's a no, and follow through. Okay, that's your power. That's alignment. And that's what magnetizes everything meant for you. Alright guys, I'm going to end it there. I have probably like another hour's worth of notes for the notes from the journal, or notes from the journey, but I've already gone almost an hour here, so I'll save that for another video. So have a good week. Try to stay grounded, try to stay calm, take a pause before reacting, etc., etc. For those of you waiting on Pay It Forward videos, they are coming, but of course it was overwhelming. Nothing ever goes according to plan, and the last week with electronics has really blown my mind, and I've had to walk away a bunch. So they're coming. Sending positive energy away. Bye.